We're following the latest on the international standoff over Greenland.
European ambassadors held an emergency meeting in Belgium last night to discuss President Donald Trump's tariff threat. The president insists his push to acquire Greenland is driven by national security concerns. But in a message sent to Norway's prime minister, the president said in part, quote, "Considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace." End quote. President Trump is set to travel to Davos, Switzerland this week for the World Economic Forum, where he will come face to face with leaders from many of the countries facing those new tariff threats.
And tomorrow, the president marks 1 full year back in office. A new CBS News poll just out gauges how Americans generally feel on a whole range of issues, including Greenland and ICE operations. Earlier, I spoke with CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, about the findings. Anthony, thanks for being with us this afternoon. And I know that you've looked at some polls that have been conducted here. ICE is certainly in the news a lot, especially here in Minnesota. How are people feeling about the administration, the way it's handling immigration and the ICE tactics?
So our latest CBS News poll, when we look at views on ICE's tactics when stopping or detaining people, we've seen an increase now in the number who say that those tactics, in their view, are too tough as opposed to not tough enough or about right. That's one part of this. The other is, who do people think is being targeted by the Trump administration's deportation program? And we've seen an increase there in the number of Americans who say they think it's people who aren't just dangerous criminals. Those two things go together with a rising disapproval with the program overall. But let me also show you this, because it's about the protesters and views there. 4 in 10 Americans think those protesters have gone too far. And I want to show you the party breaks on that, because it's important. You see these big numbers of Republicans. They're the ones, majority of Republicans, saying they feel those protesters against ICE have gone too far. So it's those party breaks, part of that dynamic around how Americans are reacting to everything that they're seeing in Minneapolis.
Which isn't really that surprising, I imagine, when you break it down in parties like that. Can we look overseas to Greenland and Iran? How do people feel about the president's actions, how that will affect the U.S.'s standing on the world stage?
So a couple of things. One is you see big numbers, 70%, who say they would disapprove of the prospect of using federal funds to buy Greenland, and then that number goes up to 86% who say they would disapprove the prospect of the U.S. using military force to take Greenland. Now, here's a case where you see across party lines sentiment being shared. You see majorities of Democrats, independents, and a big majority of Republicans all saying they would disapprove of that idea. Now, what do they think the implications might be? We asked about that. If the U.S. were to use military force, yeah, there's about half say that could give the U.S. access to resources, but bigger numbers saying they think it would create more instability in the world or cause the U.S. to leave NATO. Those are some of the views driving those big numbers right now on disapproval of the idea.
And tomorrow actually marks 1 year since President Trump is back in office. And you say that you found the economy to be a big issue. Can you get a little bit more into the specifics on about what people are happy about, what they're not happy about?
I certainly can. I'm going to start with the economy, as you mentioned. We've seen this consistently throughout the year. The public, 3/4 in this case, saying they don't feel the administration has put enough focus on lowering prices. Why is that? Well, number one, people tell us that prices are the way in which they are evaluating the economy. That's been the case, and people's ratings of the economy have been negative now, not just this year, but 4 years since the pandemic. The other part of that, and this speaks to why they're so concerned about prices, and that is 3/4 tell us they don't feel their income is keeping pace with inflation, missing that buying power. Again, that's a story not just this year, but it's been going on for years. So what does that add up to? Well, in the first year of his term, right, A lot of Republicans think the president has done more than they'd expected, but more mixed elsewhere. And then the overall approval rating at 41% has been fairly stable in recent weeks. But the overall story is back to that idea of partisanship. You see strong support from Republicans. That's been pretty consistent. Over the course of the year, you've seen a decline in support, in approval from independents, but it's that strong backing from the Republican base that's been a big part of the story. That, ratings on handling the economy, also a big part of that, and that's your story for the first year.
Definitely very interesting. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us.